Oh dear, oh dear. Well, it's getting depressingly close to that annoying humbug time of the year again, isn't it? Oh, God. Yes, the shops are full of Chinese tat. Well, this particular piece of that, I have to say, is quite old as it goes. It's about 15 years this thing has been on the face of the planet. So it's done pretty well, really. Been asked to have a look at it for somebody, and the problem is that Santa is supposed to sing and move about, and you can see he's got a little microphone thing there, isn't he? And I suppose the sound is supposed to be coming out of this radio set, old-time radio. Funny thing is that the speaker isn't actually in there. This is just a plastic box, although on the back of it is a battery lid, so it must be intended for use in a different model in another role, shall I say. But after many years of working quite happily, Santa suddenly, a few years back, by all accounts, stopped moving. And the sound comes through all right, but there's no movement, I was told. Well, the way into Santa was not exactly easy to see because, as you see, he's all got this big traditional cloak on and all this. Undo the belt, carefully prise the microphone out of his hand, and then you can just about, by carefully manoeuvring the arms, which are just on pieces of wire, by the way, one's inside and out of sight of, you can slide his coat down, and eventually, after removing a load of wadding, which gives him the sort of rotund Santa Claus look, and in other words, he's a fat git like me, you come onto a rather nasty looking pink box, which is held together by three of those silly triangle headed screws that the health and safety Nazis like to put in and the planned obsolescence people like to put in so that people like us can't get in there and repair it. I've got news for them. I've got a thing that does it. So there. So, we got in anyway. What are you going to do about it? Piss off and die, hopefully. Vindictive me, never. But once inside, drivetrain is quite simple. Most of it's gear driven. But the motor, which is a little can motor thing, drives a belt at first, and I was surprised to see that it was actually an audio belt quality thing and not a rubber band. Because that was my first thought, perhaps there's a rubber band that snapped here. Because I don't really know much about dolls and things. Well, I wouldn't, would I? Let's be honest. But no, the pulleys, though, were horribly out of alignment. So I've realigned them so that the belt no longer twists continuously as the motor's running. But that didn't seem to do too much. The driven pulley was still spinning merrily and the drive shaft spinning with it. But what wasn't spinning was this little tiny nylon gear here. And the reason was that it's cracked. It's split along its length at the bottom of one of the gear teeth valleys, if you like. And so, of course, it had expanded on the drive shaft, and the drive shaft was merely spinning inside it. So, quick trip to the shed revealed that yes, I had got something with the right number of teeth and the right external diameter, but the hole in the middle was too small. It was designed for something like a Scalextric motor, shall we say. So I had to carefully bore this thing out on the pillar drill, straight of course, because you don't want it wobbling, and that took a bit of thinking out how to do that without damaging it, because it is after all only nylon. Then pushed it back onto the drive shaft and reassembled Santa carefully, and nobody was more surprised than me when I A, got him back together again without making a real dog's breakfast of him, and B, Well, that was all he ever did by all accounts, so Santa is working again. Sound quality's terrible though. These little digital chips, there's always a tinny rattle in the background of my ears. I don't know whether anybody else out there finds that, but I do. It's not quite as clear as it ought to be. Now, another thing that's not quite as clear as it ought to be is the sound on this at the moment. Before this can go anywhere, it needs another stylus. Because I had a look at it with the magnifier and it's not too good. So, yeah, not very good at all. I've sent for another one. I found one on eBay. The ST17 stylus is the one for this, rather than the one that's in it. The one that's in this thing at the moment only has the one tip, but the ST17 you can flip over. And on many of the old music centres, it used to have a 78 tip, and then the other tip would play your LPs and your 45s. But with this deck only playing 33s or 45s, it's an LP. So when one wears out, you just flip it over and off you go again. And the funny thing is that this double-sided stylus was actually cheaper than getting a new single-sided one like that. So I don't quite know what to make of that. All sounds a bit of a rip-off, doesn't it? But, oh dear, I don't like all this business with Jimmy Savile and all these paedophiles. Ugh, God, it makes you cringe, doesn't it? I'm afraid if it was out to me, I'd just string up these paedophile bastards and that'd be that. But then I suspect you already know that, so I won't go on about that. But yeah, it's still looking very good, this thing. Yeah, probably somebody will be very happy with it. Postage would be about £20, I found when I went down to the post office. And yeah, so I've got a box big enough for it and everything. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see if anything comes of it or not. Anyway, even the lid polished up nicely in the end, so didn't do too badly there, I don't think. See you soon.